What's good, family? It's ATL Day Ones. I'm Tenitra. That is Jarvis. And we appreciate you guys for joining us again as we do this deep dive into the Hawks. We also appreciate you guys for continuing to support us on YouTube. Over 1,000 subscribers. Keep on rocking with us. Keep going to our page and liking and subscribing and telling everybody else about a show that talks all things sports Atlanta. And you can check out the entire Locked On Sports Atlanta family there as well. And of course, don't forget that when you go to wherever you get your podcast, whatever platform that is, be sure to give us a 5-star review. We hope we're giving you content that is worthy of that, like this Hawks content, this Hawks that we are about to dig into. And yeah, we admit sometimes it's difficult to kind of watch what's going on with the NBA playoffs, but you got to keep your eye on it, right, Jarvis? Because you have to know who it is that is a potential moving part that could move itself right here to Atlanta, right? So even paying attention to the draft lottery, thank goodness tonight the Hawks are not in it for once. Last year, I guess it's the second year in a row, and Jamie Gertz had mentioned that several years ago, like, yeah, we're not about to do this every year. So now the Hawks are finally at that point. However, they still have their picks. 16 and 44 as of now to decide what they do want to do with those picks for the draft. And while, listen, we don't expect them to necessarily get a Robin type or a secondary type or that go-getter, that second guy in the draft, but maybe they'll use the picks to maybe leverage to get a Robin. So that's where you and I kind of started our conversation, because you look at a team, and we talked about the Bucks in particular, although we could go across the landscape of who got to the semifinals and ultimately to the conference finals, right? But the Bucks, eliminated from the playoffs, it's obvious that they are a perfect example of what happens when you don't have a real Robin, or a term that we have coined, a co-Robin, to send really help, right? So if you want to send help for Trae, who would be that guy like a Chris Middleton, where Giannis, as great as Giannis is, arguably the best player in the league, could not even get back to the conference finals without his co-Robin? Because I don't know if everyone would consider Chris Middleton like a true Robin, but when it's Giannis and Chris Middleton and maybe one other guy doing his thing, then we know what happens. They get championships. So my question to you is this, Jarvis. You started it. I want to continue it.
Okay.
Of bringing people into the chat. So Joel Embiid entered the chat last week as you sent your love letter to Daryl Morey on what he needs to be doing and what we need to be considering here. So I want to throw somebody else into the chat, and that is DeAndre Ayton. He has entered the chat. And why? Because there's some unrest. There's some unhappiness going on in the Valley of the Sun, and there's a possibility that he could be maybe a co-Robin. Possibility, Jarvis? What you think?
My whole thing with any big that can rebound and get buckets, he's a guy that kind of a little bit of an old school type player. He can throw the ball into the post, and he can get busy some. He can run that pick and roll. He can be a rim runner and finish at the rim. That's DeAndre Ayton's type game. He's even got. I was kind of looking at the numbers. I was like, he even got really good at, not really good, but he got a lot better at shooting the three as well.
Range in his three, his range in his threes. Yeah.
So you can tell he's kind of growing his game, and I think that he has that. The main piece, though, an important piece, is that he's a double-digit rebound guy consistently.
Yes,
and that's a guy, and also he can get busy on the defensive end as well. And I think when you pair somebody like that with Trae Young, like. I know that Chris Paul is there at the point guard position, and he, or point guard as people refer to him as. I don't think that. I'm not saying that Trae Young is just out of this world better than Chris Paul, but I think that it's safe to say that Chris Paul is at a certain point of his career where he's on the backside of it, or the back nine for all my golf enthusiasts out there. And Trae is just continue to ascend as one of the better point guards in the NBA. Okay. And I think that when you pair somebody up like that with him, that can go with him, that can pay 35 to 37 minutes a night, or maybe even 40 if need be. I think I'm all on board for that.
Yeah.
because when you talk about the unrest and paying attention to what's going on with these other teams,
Hmm.
when DeAndre Ayton is sitting on the bench in the fourth quarter and hasn't played
Yeah.
that much, and your
Yeah.
head coach comes up to you, Monty Williams, and asks, "Hey, you want to go back in?" And his answer was, "Nope."
Ooh, right.
That's a problem. There's some issues. There's some stuff
Yeah.
going on in Phoenix,
Hmm.
and Devin Booker kind of got exposed.
Hmm.
In the playoffs, and people like, "Oh,
Hmm.
you're not as good as you thought you were," or maybe you
Yeah.
aren't the
Or
All
maybe,
Star that you think you are.
right, right.
So I think that when you have all those factors, those are the things that we're saying, hey, pay attention,
Pay attention.
because you never know what could go down once these general managers and people inside these organizations start having conversations. And
Yep.
I love how you're thinking, T. I'm really interested. You've piqued my
Hmm.
interest with this whole DeAndre Ayton piece.
Yeah, because other than Ben Simmons, do we really know where people stand in terms of their unrest or their openness or willingness for players to move from point A to point B? At the beginning of the season, everybody was so just bent set on saying, oh no, Bradley Beal, he'll never move, he'll never leave DC. Oh, okay. Now there's some commentary saying, well, same thing with Zach Levine. Oh no, everything's great in Chicago. They're doing the darn thing. He would leave. Okay, now where are we? Nobody saw this necessarily coming from DeAndre Ayton. Now there may be some insiders who cover the Suns on a day-to-day basis that may have known about some unrest ahead of the recent unraveling of the Suns, but most people did not know that. So I
Right.
say that to say, let's dig into it, Travis Schlenk. Let's dig into it, Hawks front office. Let's see if there's any viability in terms of them and maybe a third team being a trade partner if a sign and traded is what's needed. But let's delve into why there's unrest or why maybe he's disgruntled. If he is, maybe it was just a momentary thing. But like we told you guys, almost everybody we're looking at, hey, go on and kick the tires and let's see what you get, especially because he's what we would consider a co-Robin. He wouldn't be the complete answer, wouldn't be the
Mm-hmm.
complete answer by any stretch of the imagination. There's still an opportunity out there to get a Robin, but certainly he could be a co-Robin, meaning he might be your third guy, if you will, or maybe even your number two on certain nights. Now, speaking of that, one of the things I think about as well, and that's just me, that's sort of the camp that I kind of live in. I'm still rocking with we need an elite backcourt. And we don't have a 1-2 elite backcourt punch in the Hawks. But what we're seeing is sort of some different definitions of what elite backcourts look like, right? So
Mm-hmm.
looking at Luka Doncic, for example, because we
Right.
want to talk about it. We know that's what you guys want to talk about for a few minutes as well. That conversation is always going to rear its head. It reared its head last year when Trae Young and company got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and all things were, yeah, the Hawks did it right. They got trade.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
good. The trade worked. All of a sudden this year, oh God, the sky is falling. Luka Doncic and the Mavs upset the Suns, and they're in the Western Conference Finals. The sky is falling. I don't think the Hawks did the right thing. You know what? Pump them brakes, as Jarvis would say. Pump
Right.
those brakes, because you got to think about so many other factors, right, Jarvis? First of
Yes.
all, it's Jalen Brunson really taking his game to the next level, right? Let's start
Mm-hmm.
right there. And then
Yep.
it's Spencer Dinwiddie bringing the noise from the bench, right? And giving them exactly what they needed. And their ability, give J Kidd some credit, their ability as a team, as a coaching staff to figure out what they needed to do to essentially neutralize the backcourt for the Suns, right? But you
Right.
look into some of the things that built that, right? Not just that Luka all of a sudden is the best player on the planet, the most amazing player on the planet, and it's about stats. No, it's about things like his attitude, his conditioning that started to improve as the year wore on, his commitment to defense. Those are some of the things. And it just got me to thinking, Jarvis, I think fans make a mistake if they want to simplify it down to, oh, did the Hawks get it right with Trae? Oh, did Luka get it right? Did the Mavs get it right with Luka? What about this concept, Jarvis? What happens when maybe you as a player listen to your coach in somebody like a Jay Kidd, who's a Hall of Famer, and Dirk Nowitzki, your mentor, if you will, and then you
Mm-hmm.
start putting those nuggets in place to become this guy and take your game. And even if Trae Young, as Trae Young continues to evolve his game, I've been saying, Nate McMillan, could you call maybe one of your old teammates, Gary Payton, maybe to
Yeah.
help evolve Trae's game? But yeah, for me, Jarvis, it's more than just about this tired conversation, this tired questioning that we keep hearing about who's better, Luka or Trae, or who got the better deal, Hawks or Mavs.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of what was right for both organizations, right?
Yes.
I think that the Dallas saw their guy and they tried to do everything in order to get their guy.
Mm-hmm.
The Hawks pinpointed their guy and they did everything they possibly could to get their guy, and I think it's
Yes.
working out for both organizations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just a matter of the whole social media aspect of
Yeah.
people having a little FOMO. It's Trey did this last year, right, on the
Right.
biggest stage in
Right.
Madison Square Garden, and just saying waving bye bye, and dealing with people spitting on him, and then he went to Philly in Game 7 and just like showed you exactly what the Hawks were thinking they were getting in him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, for guys to justify that on the biggest stage, that's just how
Mm-hmm.
you know. Chill out.
Yeah.
It's okay. They have Luka. We have, now when I say we, I mean the city. The city of
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta has Trae Young,
Yes.
and both teams are happy, and both teams are excited about the future. And
Yes.
now I just think it's just a matter of figuring out how they can be better. Whether
Agreed.
or not it's bringing a co-Robin or a Robin, or whether
Mm-hmm.
or not that is going and making a phone call that might seem to be crazy as hell to Daryl Morey.
Right.
All of those, or calling down to the Valley of the Sun and say, okay, hey,
Mm-hmm.
we know he's up for a big contract. We can work something out. If y'all like John or DeAndre or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
those are the type of conversations that need to be had in order to take your team to the next level. But
Yes.
that's what you need to start worrying about, and not necessarily, oh, we should have had Luka. No, nobody
Yeah.
care about that. That's
No.
all that surface level conversation that you can go and kick rocks with that. We
Yeah.
don't do that here. And I think that it's just all about trying to figure out how to get better
Mm-hmm.
and figure out, what's best for the organization going forward.
Agreed. It couldn't have said it better. And yeah, there are so many different things that we can play around with what will make, you said the perfect word, the organization better, because it's not just about this one little aspect or that. There are layers to this thing, there's levels to
Yeah,
this thing, and that's what we're
indeed.
looking at. That's why I think somebody should give Gary Payton a call. I'm just saying. But just like we want you guys to give context to what's going on with the Hawks organization and look at the layers and the levels of it, let's also do the same thing for Braves country, because you know what? And for the culture, we're going to tell you exactly kind of the ups and the downs. We're going to give you some love for what it is that you do in understanding the levels and the layers of support that you should still give the Braves and Braves country. But also, we'll talk a little bit about, why is it that you walk away from giving them support so quickly? So, want to hear about it? Come back for the culture on the other side.